AMANA Voice, the voice of trust. Brought to you by the American Muslim Association of North America. Each and every Sunday evening at 6 p.m. Each week we will bring to you issues confronting our community. Join us this Sunday at 6 p.m. for AMANA Voice, the voice of trust. Brought to you by your Muslim neighbors on WTPS 1080 AM, the People's Station.
News Talk 1080 AM WTPS, Coral Gables, Miami-Dade, Broward, and the Palm Beaches. The People's Station.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful.
الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Owner of the Day of Judgment. Thee alone we worship, Thee alone we ask for help. Show us the straight path, the path of those whom Thou hast favored, not the path of those who earn Thine anger, nor of those who go astray.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. We begin in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. All praises and glory is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds. We seek refuge in Allah from shaitan, Satan, the rejected. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon each and every one of you this afternoon. My name is Brother Kamal, and I'd like to welcome you once more to Al-Amana, the voice of trust, brought to you by the American Muslim Association of North America. Today, inshallah, God willing, we would like to discuss how to protect yourself against identity theft, and also how to safeguard your property during the summer vacation. But before we begin, first of all, we'd like to hear from Brother Sufyan Zarqout, the director of Al-Amana. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Sufyan. How are you doing this afternoon?
Yeah, thank you. I'm doing fine, thank you. Good evening, dear listeners. Tonight we have very, very important program for you. Like always, we've been bringing you issues can benefit our listeners, especially when it comes to security and when it comes to health. And tonight's special night here we have a dear friend of mine, Mr. Jack Sullivan. He is the executive director of the Crime Stoppers of Dade County, and I am very happy to have him with us tonight. As you know, as I mentioned before, I'm a board member at the Crime Stoppers, and it's gonna be very. Mr. Jack been giving services to our community for how many years, Jack? 30 years, 40 years?
Since 1981. I've been working with the
Crime Stoppers, and I hope that you all be tuned to the program. And now back to Brother Kamal.
Thank you very much, Brother Sufyan. Protection against identity theft, and our second topic is safeguarding your property during the summer vacation. When you go on vacation and you think everything is all secured at home, today we're going to go through some tips for you before you go on summer vacation. As Brother Sufyan mentioned, in our studios this evening, we have Jack Sullivan. He's the director of Miami-Dade Crime Stoppers. Welcome to our program, Mr.
Thank
Sullivan.
you so very much for inviting me.
I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself and about Crime Stoppers before we begin our discussion.
Okay, as a self-introduction, my name is Jack Sullivan. I'm the Executive Director for Crime Stoppers of Miami-Dade. I'm a retired Deputy Chief from the City of Miami Police Department. Started working with Crime Stoppers when I was with the police department and felt the program was valuable enough to the community that I stayed with it. Once I retired, became a board member, became president, then I became the executive director. The Crime Stopper program has been in business since 1981. It started in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and because of a homicide that happened there, and they couldn't solve the homicide. And it's grown to be a worldwide program. It is not just a local program, it's worldwide. And the basis of Crime Stoppers is that when the person calls in from the community, they are not asked for their name, their address, phone number, or any personal information. They remain totally unknown. The anonymity or the unknownness of what is the success of the program, because I think part of the problem when you come into the community and they know of a crime that's been committed, they're afraid, number one, to call the police because, some countries have a problem with their police departments and they become victims there. They're afraid to become a victim of the perpetrator of the crime if the police car is seen in front of their house. And part of that is they're also afraid to have to appear in court.
And there's a reward program if someone call in with
yes.
To help the Crime Stoppers.
The way it happens is there's a reward up to $1,000. It depends on the seriousness of the crime.
Uh-huh.
And what happens to explain how that happens in your name becoming unknown is when you call into the number, the 305-471-8477 number, you give the information to the call taker. They give you a code number. Never do we take a phone number. You have to call the Crime Stopper number back to find out what the result of your tip was. Now that information goes out to the law enforcement agency that is investigating the case. They send the information back to us telling us if the information did in fact result in an arrest. Now it's only the arrest and filing of criminal charges. It's not arrest and conviction.
Okay.
And that's a confusing part sometimes with the people. All right, the tipster calls back and finds out and asks how the tip went, and let's use the number $500. The reward was approved by the board. The board of directors, it's a civilian board of directors. This is not a police program. It's a program run by the civilians, by business people, and by the board of directors. The board of directors votes on the reward, and when you call back in, you give your tip number. It might be JS123, and you're told that yes, the reward has been approved for $500. You are then given a code name to go with that number. You're also cautioned, do not share that information with anyone else.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because if you share that information with anyone else, that's the key to the Treasury to get that $500.
Right.
Then you're asked what Wachovia Bank, because Wachovia is where we do business with right now, and have been doing business with Wachovia since it was Southeast Banks in 1981. And whichever Wachovia Bank you want to go to, you go in and present to either the manager of the bank or the head teller that information that you're given, the code name and the code number. They'll verify that because once you tell us where you're going, you have 60 days to pick it up, by the way. You don't have to go on any particular day or any particular time. You have 60 days in which to pick up the reward. When you walk in, you give that to the head teller or the manager of the bank. They verify it with the information that we have provided with them. to them with the code number, code name. You are given cash, and you leave. Never do you have to sign for anything. Never do you have to stand and take a check and do anything of that nature.
So your name is totally anonymous. Nobody knows.
It's totally anonymous. Your name is totally unknown.
Now, is there a phone call, phone number, or website that we can go to and get all this information that you're telling me? Because I know a lot of our listeners, we may hear this information, but I know there are numbers out there and website that can explain all this in details.
Yes, we do have a website that's www.crimestoppersmiami.com.
Right.
Also, there is a brochure, very beautiful brochure about the Crime Stoppers Dade County. They can call and you can send them one. Your office can send them one, right?
Absolutely, they can call. Or if they want to have, if they would like brochures to have in their place of business or something to hand out to their customers, we will provide them with those brochures.
Yeah.
Now, Jackie,
also,
you must have a.
Also, really, I urge also, especially we are in summer vacation now. I urge all schools and especially who have camps and all school to try to learn more about this beautiful program. This is a great program. We have to keep our eye on the crime in order to have a safer society and a safer neighborhood. You have to be involved. You have to, if you see like legal dumping, this is one of the crimes that we at the Crime Stoppers, we always like drugs, also any suspicious activities in your neighborhood that you like to call us and share, like graffiti, weapons. Please, try to be involved and try to educate your students, educate your community how to be involved by calling the Office of the Crime Stoppers. That way you can be really part of this great effort to minimize future crime. We all suffering from all these crimes, and I really urge you to be involved.
Brother Sufyan, you're also board member of Crime Watch and also Crime Stoppers?
Yeah, actually, I'm a board member. I've been about 3 years board member at the Crime Stoppers. I've been now almost a year with the Crime Watch, and I'm really very, very glad that I'm involved with these boards, because I feel, especially with the leadership of Jack here, I really enjoy being there, because you see a lot of rewards being there. You see
what enthused you to start, with these programs?
If I see that I'm involved in something, and if I see in the end of the day that I've been my board or with my effort or with my participation, that I'm trying to minimize the crime around my community. And also when it comes to education our communities and all members even at large about how to work. See, Islamically speaking too, we are instructed as Muslims to be involved to have a safe neighborhood. If you go to the teaching of our Prophet and the Quran, we supposed to be part of, in our neighbors, part of fighting all sort of crime. Any crime coming from thefts or coming from even terrorism or graffiti, all that against our religion, and we have to fight it. And we can't fight it just by watching it. You can't do that. You have to be involved, and everybody can be involved. Our sisters can be involved. Our children, the youth can be involved. Our brothers, the Islamic centers, the imams, everybody can be part of this great efforts. That if you want to, please, if you want to learn more about this kind of project like Crime Watch in your neighborhood, I urge, like after 9/11, for example, which we wrote many articles. Also, we got terrorism and Islamic solutions in one of our brochures, saying, like, I wish to see a Muslim in every neighbors as a member in the Crime Watch. That way you show your support against, you send a clear message that what we are against and what we are supporting. That way our community will be more involved. We have a great resources, and we can utilize all these resources unless to show the benefit of being involved in these kind of efforts and activities.
Now, Jack, you don't have to be highly qualified to join any of these programs, do you?
No, not at all. You just have to be a concerned citizen.
Okay.
But let me explain the difference between Crime Watch and Crime Stoppers. I also serve on both boards. I'm the secretary for the Crime Watch group here in Miami-Dade, and the executive director for Crime Stoppers, as we said. The difference between Crime Watch is a group of concerned citizens in their neighborhood that watch what's going on. As we spoke before the show started about the vacations when you're leaving town, and you advise your neighbors so your neighbor will watch your house, and you advise the authorities that you are going on vacation in the event that something happens, and give them a contact number where somebody can be available to answer any questions that might happen if there's a prowler or if there's something of that nature. And the Crime Watch is a group of concerned citizens in the neighborhood. The difference that comes up with Crime Stoppers is we take intelligence information on crimes that people know have happened, or they've heard of something that's going to happen, or that they know of somebody that's providing illegal substances, illegal weapons, illegal identity. Because identity theft, as you spoke, we'll talk about in a little while, is one of the big things that's going on in this country.
Yes.
Is people
Big
stealing
problem.
other people's identity, and it's so easy sometimes to avoid it, but we sometimes don't think about it.
Okay, I'd like to give out the number in our studios, 1-877-825-1080, 1-877-825-1080. And I'll kindly ask if you can stick to our topic this evening. We are talking about ways in which to protect yourself against identity theft and how to safeguard your property while you're on summer vacation. And I know most of our listeners, we may take certain precautions going on vacation, but there are certain tips that comes from people in authority who have studied the act of burglary, and there are certain advice I know which you can give us, which would be very valuable. But first of all, is it true that the crimes go up during the summertime? Because I think I read this in one of the articles in the internet.
Well, there's been studies on this, and I think it's true because schools are out. You got youngsters that don't have anything to do, and I think a lot of it turns out to be trying their hand at doing something that they shouldn't be doing because they don't have an activity to keep themselves occupied with. The other part about it is it goes up because the bad guys know that people go on vacation.
Right, yes.
And the bad guys are constantly cruising the neighborhoods looking for targets of opportunity and such as that. So when you go on vacation, you should notify your neighbors that you're going on vacation. A lot of us go out of town, and we don't think to notify the neighbors who knows who cars belong in the neighborhood. They know that that your house is going to be vacated, and they're more than willing to keep an eye on it. But sometimes we get too involved in our plans for vacations and not involved for the safety of our homes while we're gone.
Right. I know that we don't take it too seriously, some of us, even though we don't go on vacation. We don't take the opportunity to secure our property even during the daytime. And I'd like you to also touch a little bit on this for our listening audience. A lot of us are home during the vacation, but we don't secure our property. And then the guys passing around just looking for opportunity would just pick up whatever they can get or go into the houses and burglarize.
Well, that's true. The thing you shouldn't do is you should not leave your garage doors open.
Uh-huh.
A lot of us have a habit, and I've been guilty of it, and I think you have, and so has Sophian, of working in the garage and then going in the house to get a drink of water or use the bathroom or whatever the reason is, and you don't bring in the tools. You leave the tool out in the front yard. Say it's a lawnmower. You leave your lawnmower out in the front yard, and you come back and the lawnmower's gone because you've left it there unattended. Always take it back, put it back in the garage, and if you feel you're going to be gone too long and you have a garage that faces the street, then close the garage door. Don't leave valuable equipment out there. Always pick up your mail. Make sure when you're out of town that you stop the mail. The post office will stop the mail for you and then deliver whatever mail was supposed to be delivered while you're on vacation. You just give them the dates. Very easy to do. You contact the post office and they'll take care of it. A lot of people don't take advantage of that. Stop the newspapers if you have newspaper delivery. One of the first clues that these bad guys, so to speak, look for is an accumulation of newspapers out front. That's a clear indication that nobody's home.
Now, let's assume we're going on vacation and we're looking at the house. What should our house actually look like? Should we prepare our house in such a way as it not being that obvious that we're leaving? What advice should we ask our neighbors, for in order to help us, as though our house looks like somebody is there?
Should we leave vacation? One light on, for example?
I always leave a light on, whether I go out of town or if I'm just out for the evening. I always leave a light on so that there's an indication, that there may be something there. A lot of times, if you just leave the radio on, it's an indication that that there might be somebody in there listening to the radio, because very quiet homes, draw very quiet.
It might be a good idea to use a timer. Sometimes the timer comes on. You can set it at certain times. People will hear that something's going on inside the house. Yeah.
But by no means is that a concrete thing that you're not going to get broken into. Right. That's just one of the ways to do things. Tell your neighbors you're going. Tell them how long you're going to be gone. Give them a contact number, so if a car pulls up and they're asking for you, don't tell the people to call up that your neighbor's on vacation.
Right. I don't. Yeah.
They're just not home right now. Can I give them a message?
Yeah. Don't broadcast.
Don't broadcast the idea that your neighbors are out of town, because lots of times that'll happen. Somebody will knock on the door and say, "I'm trying to get a hold of Mr. Jones next door. Do you know when he'll be back?" And it's not a purposeful thing, but what it is, it's somebody just courteously answering the question. Well, he's gone for 2 weeks and he won't be back until a week from Saturday.
Now, do you recommend also having some of the sensor lights around the houses? And I saw a couple of this in the websites. Do you recommend that for like the nighttime?
I have sensor lights that, if they're like motion detector lights that people walk up when they're not supposed to be there. Sometimes, however, with those sensor lights, they go on and off all night because you get a wild animal, a dog or a cat or something of that nature going through, and they'll light the lights up even when you're home.
Yes. What other recommendation do you have like for outside your house? What about landscaping? Should you arrange for somebody to come and make sure your house is manicured, the landscaping, so that someone passing by may think that, hey, somebody's around,
Well, if you can get that done, that's a very good thing to do. If you're going to be gone for an extended period of time.
Right.
If you're going to be gone for a week, it usually doesn't make much difference, particularly if you cut your own lawn. Yes. A lot of people can't afford to have a lawn service. So, that's going to be an issue, that you cut the lawn just before you leave and hope that there's not a lot of rain. But if you can get that taken care of, yes.
Now, what advice do you have for us for securing the doors, like the sliding doors, the doors to get inside your house, windows and things like that?
My suggestion to everybody, I have an alarm system, and my suggestion is that you have a monitored alarm system.
Monitor alarm system, yes, yes.
You know, let me add something about the benefit of being involved in the crime watch and the crime stoppers. See, when your neighbor, when a group of people established in your neighbor a crime watch for the neighbors, you don't need to worry too much about your kids. You don't need to worry about your property. You don't need to worry about your home in general when you are away. Because see, when you have a commitment to your neighbors that you're gonna be watching for them, they're gonna be watching for you. See, this is as simple as that. This is the reason maybe you can give a couple of hours a month for being in this kind of association like Crime Watch, and also being to learn more about the Crime Stoppers. When you see any in the night somebody trying to go around, you don't know, it's good to be involved in this. The benefit when you leave, some people is watching your back while you are away.
It's good to have somebody watching your back.
Of course, always.
Now, Jack, let's assume that let's take one more point inside our houses. What tips do you have to protect our valuables inside our house? We may be going on vacation, and everything outside is secured. What about the valuables inside the house?
For the valuables inside the house, I've always recommended that you have an in-floor safe or something of that nature in the house to keep your jewelry, if you have any, and
right.
coins and extra monies. It's a good thing to have. If not, you can always get a safe deposit box at the bank,
yeah, that's also,
and you keep it there. I wouldn't leave any valuables hanging around my house or for the taking if I was leaving out of town for any period of time. But going back to the Crime Watch groups, if you form a Crime Watch group in your neighborhood,
yes.
When you leave on vacation, what you do is you just tell whoever the Crime Watch commander is, for the lack of a better word, for the person that's in charge of that group, you tell them. And they will tell all the other members of the Crime Watch group, and they'll keep an eye on the house. They'll drive by, they'll look at it, and it's really a very profitable thing for you at very low cost.
Yeah, I want you to talk a little bit about what the burglars look for, and I know there's a very common practice, sticking the keys under the mat or putting it in the plant right above the door, things like that. Just advise our listening audience about these practices that are, very bad.
Those practices that used to work years ago are not.
When we lived in a safe community, right?
Yes, that's when you could leave your doors unlocked
yes,
and not have to worry. But that's been a long time ago. My suggestion to people is you don't try to hide a key out there.
Yeah.
If you're going to do something like that, they sell these lock boxes that you can buy and put on the front door.
With code.
And it has a code number on it. And whoever should be having access to your house can have access to the house. The real estate people use those all the time. So they are available to the general public also.
Brother Sufyan, you still put the keys under the mat?
No, not anymore.
Okay.
I put my neighbor's keys. By the way, let me give the telephone number of the Crime Watch in case you're really interested of forming a group of Crime Watch in your neighborhood. You can call the office of the Crime Watch 305-470-1670, and you can get more information. You can get brochures and exactly the whole plan. They can provide it.
We have a caller on the line. Hello, Mr. Scott Friedman. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Welcome
Good.
to our program. I hope you've been listening for the past half an hour.
I have been. I've been keeping up. It's good conversation. On key.
Is there anything that we missed along our conversation that you'd like to touch on, brother?
Well, I think Mr. Sullivan has been hitting all the fine points. That it's very important, that if you're going to be thinking of security, just don't leave the obvious. People do look for keys in your yard. lights and, believe it or not, sound are two excellent ways to maintain great security for your home.
Yes.
Leaving a television on is just a great thing. Even when I'm visiting hotel rooms, when I leave my hotel room, I'll leave my television on. It just leaves somebody with the impression somebody's in there.
Yes, and Scott Friedman, for our listening audience, you're the director of the Office of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
Oh, I'm an inspector with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Our special agent in charge of the local region is Amos Rojas.
Okay, we have about 30 seconds, matter of fact, about 15 seconds. We got to go on a break right now, I'm sorry. Would you be able to stay on the phone lines when we come back?
I would be happy to.
All right, stay tuned, my dear listening audience. We'll be right back.
News, talk, weather, and traffic on News Talk 1080 AM WTPS, the People Station.
Al-Amana Voice, the Voice of Trust radio program is sponsored by AMIN, the American Muslim for Emergency and Relief. Muslim Neighbors for Neighbors. Also sponsored by Adam Travel. Adam Travel is the agency you can count on for all your travel needs, and domestic international. Location is at 1836 North University Drive, Plantation, Florida. Contact number 1-800-797-2326. 12 Miami, Florida 33014. To learn more about AMANA, the American Muslim Association of North America, please visit AMANA website at www.al-amana.org. www.al-amana.org.
News Talk 1080 AM WTPS, the People Station, the place where you are heard.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you. I'd like to welcome you once more to Al-Amana, the Voice of Trust, brought to you by the American Muslim Association of North America. In our studios this afternoon, we are discussing the ways in which we can protect ourselves against identity theft, which is coming up right now, and how to safeguard your property while you're on vacation. In our panel, we have Mr. Jack Sullivan, Director of the Miami-Dade Crime Stoppers, Mr. Scott Friedman on the phone line with us, and he is with the Department of Law Enforcement, and also with us, as usual, Brother Sufyan Zarkout, and he's also a board member of Crime Watch and Crime Stoppers of Miami-Dade County. And Mr. Friedman, are you there with us?
I am here.
Yes, I'd like to ask you if, God forbid, that we come back on vacation and our house is actually burglarized, what are the things that we should or should not do?
Well, number one is you want to, of course, determine that if any credit cards or any information has been stolen, immediately the thing that you want to do is contact the major credit companies that are out there. I think there's about 5 of them. But if you contact Experian or Transamerica, one of the major ones, usually they'll put an alert out on your cards. And you could raise the alert on your card so that they will watch out for every single use of that card, especially if somebody tries to change your address. And usually that's what identity thieves want to do. They want to apply for credit information in your name, and then they want to change the address and have the new credit card sent to their home. So you can contact those credit companies and tell them that you will not be changing your address and you want to put an alert out on your house. So you want to make, or in your name, you want to make sure that if there's been a burglary at your house, that all your information is still stored securely. And a lot of people look for the valuables. They look to see if they've stolen jewelry and a lot of expensive items, but they forget that what a lot of thieves are after is your information.
Yes, information. Jack?
One of the things I would suggest to people is immediately upon getting home, if you do find that your house has been burglarized, call a local police in your area. The other thing I'd suggest as far as the identity theft is do not put all your bills in the trash. They have what they call, the term in the industry is dumpster diving. What people do is they'll go through your trash and look for your credit card bills, because your credit card statements have a lot of information on them. Your bills from Florida Power Light have a lot of information on them. Shred that information. We have Crime Stoppers has just partnered with a group called Shred It. Shred It has a group that we're going to start going around at different locations. We'll be announcing it in the future, where you can bring a whole lot of material and bring it and shred it in their trucks free of charge, and we'll be on the scene with them. And that is another way of doing it. But my suggestion is, do not ever put your bills and stuff out there without having it shredded or somehow destroyed, so that people can't get that information.
Now, Scott, how serious is identity theft? Are we taking this too lightly? Are they able to get a handle on what's going on with identity theft?
An excellent question. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement recently conducted a study of identity theft and the issues. And so people understand that when you get your credit card stolen and that credit card is used, that is actually credit card theft. That's not identity theft. Identity theft occurs when somebody actually steals your information, your identity, your name, and most importantly, your Social Security number. That is what they are after. And so don't confuse credit card theft, which most people do, and that's the most widespread problem we do have in South Florida, is credit card use of skimming of credit cards and misuse of credit card information, as identity theft. But yes, identity theft is still a significant issue.
What's the dollar factor? What are we talking about? How many billions of dollars are lost every year on identity theft?
Well, I couldn't give you a specific number off the top of my head, but you were right. It's certainly in the billions of dollars. And during the study that we were conducting at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and reviewing actually other studies that were done by several universities and by the Presidential Commission on Identity Theft that was started by President Bush, the numbers aren't exactly known because much of it goes unreported. And then, of course, the amount of total loss isn't always accumulated for a solid number. However, it is certainly in the billions of dollars. Yeah. And worse than that, it's not always the money. It's your entire life, the repair of getting your identity back and secure again. In itself, that costs usually tens of thousands of dollars. Now, there is a state law in the state of Florida and a federal law which requires the credit companies to help you secure your identity and get it back. And that way, the cost is on them to help jump through those hoops, because we've heard the horror stories of how difficult it is to re-secure your identity once it's been stolen.
Scott, this is Sufyan. I'm glad you called. Great to hear from you. Really, we've been working together since when now? For a few programs, for years now. Let me ask you, Scott, please. I need some tips for our listeners. Tips how to minimize and avoid identity thefts, and also how to avoid and minimize the credit card theft, please.
And Jack hit on the number one way that most people do lose their identity is typically through the trash, because they need more than just your credit information. As Jack said, they need your address. They may need something with your Social Security number on it. You'll see now when you go to your doctor's office, they might ask on an application or somewhere else in an application for your Social Security number. The number one thing you can do is protect your Social Security number. When you go into a business and they ask you for your Social Security number, ask them if that is mandatory. Do you need to fill that out? Because it's not so much that business is corrupt, but that one employee may do something with that number. You want to ask them, what do they do with that Social Security number and that information, that application, once you provide it to them? Do they secure it at night? Do they make copies of it? Who has access? You just want to be very careful on how and who has access to your Social Security number.
Yeah, let me ask Jack, does it take a skillful thief with a lot of electronic gadgetry to steal your identity from you?
Not at all. I think Scott can hit on that a little more, because
usually we think about it electronic things,
But
that takes
part
place.
of the thing is they don't have to be that sophisticated. If you look on some of your receipts, and receipts are something you don't want to throw in the trash either, is on some of your receipts, some businesses still are, when you put when you sign for your receipt, they have your entire credit card number. Your credit card number lots of times is the number that can get into an awful lot of information on you. And again, I would emphasize, do not throw bills in the trash. You know, if you have to, go right to the, go take it all, bag it up and take it right to a dump where you can get rid of it, where there's no opportunity for it to be gotten.
By the way, once I remember you sent us, Jack, information about how to be careful when we travel, when we go to a hotel, or even when we go to a restaurant, when the key to enter our rooms at the hotels. I think you mentioned once how they steal our information from that too. Right?
Well, that would be from your bills. I think Scott will agree that the story about all your information being on your key is pretty much false, because they don't enter all that information in your key. All they enter into that key is the code that opens that lock.
That's correct, Jack. That is a rumor that is completely unfounded. There is no information on that key that has your credit card information and all your identity. It is simply enough information to open that lock. I think at Disney World they connect the key to your credit card, but that credit card information isn't on the key. It is simply a link back to a main database stored at Disney. So even then, it is still secure. It is not. There is no information about your identity on that card.
Okay, I'd like to give out the number for the studio if anybody would like to call in, 1-877-825-1080. That's 1-877-825-1080. Please, we have a panel here, a very highly qualified panel, to answer any of your questions on identity theft. And Scott, I'd like to ask you, besides somebody stealing your identity and opening up, let's say, a credit card or bank account, what other damages can be done by stealing your identity?
Well, actually, there's, again, a great question. There's so many interesting and creative scams that are out there. One of the biggest ones we're seeing in South Florida, believe it or not, is stealing your property by stealing your identity.
Your property?
They actually will steal your property.
Oh.
And what they'll do is they will take your name, and once they have all your information, they'll go to a second property you might own, a house or a piece of land, and they'll put it up for sale. They'll open up a bank account in your name. They'll sell your land without you knowing about it. They'll have the check deposit in their account, cash it, and by the time that usually we learn about it, they often leave the country, have the money wire transferred somewhere else. So it's a very difficult scam sometimes to actually catch the perpetrator.
Jack, what besides stealing your property, what else can somebody do if they have your identity?
Well, as Scott said, they can steal your property. They can actually retitle your car. Not only sell your property, but they can retitle your car and sell your car, and all of a sudden somebody will come and pick up your car because it no longer belongs to you.
This is a serious problem. And I would like you all to touch a little bit on the different ways in which the identity theft can take place. And one of the, I was reading up on the internet, there is something called shoulder surfing, where they actually have some way of getting your credit card number when you go to the ATM machine and things like that. You like to talk about that, Scott?
Sure. One of the things that they do is at an ATM is make sure no one is standing right behind you.
Uh-huh.
I personally like to use my other hand to cover as I push the numbers, the digits for my debit card. If I'm at a grocery store and you skim the card so you can pay for your groceries, I either lean over or I use my other hand to cover the use of those numbers. Don't be embarrassed to do that. You're better off being safe and secure by using a few preventative measures. And shoulder surfing is when somebody stands behind you, they're looking for those 4 digits. And that's obviously a critical piece of information that they need.
And one of the things I think you need to be very aware of is your surroundings. If you have somebody in line standing right up against you, and you know that that's not a normal thing to do, You don't stand right up against somebody when they're trying to enter their credit card number or something like that. It's no problem to just say, "Excuse me, can I help you?"
Yes.
And not be confrontational, but make sure that before you scan it, that somebody is not looking over your shoulder. Somebody is not that close to you that they can read those numbers.
Now, Scott, I've heard that identity theft occur while you're surfing the internet. Can you explain to our listening audience how some of the ways in which identity theft can occur when you're out there, just surfing?
Well, there's a lot of websites that we are basically called cloned websites. Usually they are clones. You'll get an email from a bank, and they are hoping you actually have an account at that bank. And what people tend to do is they will receive that email, they will click on that bank, and a page that looks like a professional web page will open up, and they ask you to put your account number in, and of course all your other information, and then you're then feeding the identity thief with all the information that they need. A lot of that is perpetrated by people offshore, and they send out thousands of these emails, if not millions of these emails, every day, hoping that only one or two might hit, but that's all they need, is a few out of a couple of thousand people to actually fall prey to that so they can profit from it.
But, this is a very tricky situation here because sometimes you are on a legitimate website and you have to give out either your social security number or like your driver's license. How can, we avoid doing some of this type of, transaction on the internet?
Well, and that's something that everybody has to weigh, how far they want to take the internet. There's only a certain amount of security when it comes to the internet. You have to make that decision that you're the one who chose to go to that website and put that information in there. So hopefully when you chose to go to that banking website or that shopping website, that you have decided to go to that website and to buy something, and therefore you're putting some level of trust on them to secure that information. What I would recommend is that after making such a purchase or any type of transaction online, that same evening, go into your own bank website or go into your credit card website. Make sure yourself that every transaction that's on that credit card or inside your account that night or the next day are transactions that you intended to be.
Yes, Jack.
And also, I would put on some kind of security link on my website. There are a lot of them out there. There's Norton, there's McAfee, there's a lot of security sites where if you go to do something, they will tell you this is not a secure website that you're going to. And they'll give you that flash up, and you make that decision that you want to go to that. The other thing is you'll get an email that says you've just qualified for a $500 free, credit card or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Go to this site and plug in all your information. My suggestion is that's a red flag.
Yeah. Well, I'd like you guys to talk a little bit about how can identity theft be detected in the early stages. Because personally, I had someone spending my money up in Orlando in Disney World, and I was here in Florida, so I had to go to the bank. It's a good thing my wife caught it, and then we went to the bank. We closed the account out. But what about early detection? What should we look for early detection of identity theft?
Well, as Scott said, you go to your banking information and check your banking information. My wife does it on a daily basis.
Yes, thank God
Every
for wives,
evening she pulls up the account to make sure there's been no suspicious activity. You're only as safe as you make yourself.
Okay.
I could not say any better. That was exactly how I would do that.
Now I would
every day, if not every other day.
Okay. I would like you all to talk a little bit about the crime and punishment side of it for burglary and for identity theft. Are they making the punishment more serious for the crimes that has been being committed? And what are some of the things that the law enforcement agency are doing in order to keep down on these crimes that are being committed?
I think I'd defer to Scott to answer.
Scott?
Okay. Well, there's several state and new federal laws. The state of Florida passed several new laws this past year to go after additional punishment for identity thieves. There's enhanced penalties if the victim is elderly. There's enhanced penalty if the victim is young. There's enhanced penalties if the perpetrator portrays themselves to be a representative, I believe, of the government. There's a whole slew of new enhanced penalties for identity thieves, if somebody is under your care. And those are the things that will get them even more trouble. Of course, then there's any time that there's the perpetrator does multiple transactions with multiple victims, then we can charge them with racketeering, which carry minimum mandatory sentencing, as do several of the other types of specific identity theft crimes. So that's what we would go after. We would want minimum mandatory sentencing on most of that. The amount of enforcement is actually relatively significant. Florida Department of Law Enforcement puts a large amount of resources into it. The Secret Service in South Florida, as they do across the country, work very, very strongly on identity theft and actually have regional meetings. I think it's once a month. And so agencies often, not only at those meetings, but through databases, we share a large amount of information on identity thieves.
Scott, who picks up the tab when all these companies lose the money for identity theft?
Well, I think a big part of that, it's the credit card companies themselves, the banks who are the issuing.
Does the taxpayer have to pick up any of that tab?
Well, I think we all pay. We pay in the higher cost for everything that we purchase.
Okay. Well, Jack, I know we have to talk a little bit about the gun bounty and buying back the guns from the community. I'd like to talk a little bit about that before we close.
Okay, I'm glad you asked, because we just formed a gun bounty program where if there's an illegal weapon, there's an arrest and an illegal weapon seized, then there's a reward of up to $1,000. But a lot of people are confused with the gun bounty and the gun buyback. The gun buyback is something the agencies, the police agencies, they'll hold a day-long type or weekend type of event where you can bring guns in. Say you have a death in the family, there's guns in the house that you don't want, and you want to get rid of them legitimately, you take them to this gun buyback.
Okay.
The gun bounty program is where if you know that there's an illegal weapon that people are using, like AK-47s and such as that, and you report that, then the police go out and they investigate it. They find out there is an illegal weapon and the person doesn't have it. It's not been purchased legally. It's a gun that they should not have, because people aren't supposed to be having the AK-47s and such as that. It's down to you have one arrest, one gun, $1,000.
Now, is there a website that our listening audience can go to where we can identify the guns that are legal and that are not legal,
Scott, are you aware of any website that tells you the legal guns and whatever?
I'm not sure. If people want to go to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement site, we have a website that includes information about guns, but I'm not sure that you can actually specifically check yourself to see if the gun is illegal. You could check with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, though.
What the illegality of the guns they're talking about now is guns that have been used in a crime, that a known felon has a gun. It's illegal for a felon to have a gun.
Yes.
And that people that are committing crimes with guns.
And stolen guns, too.
And stolen guns and such as that.
Yeah.
All right. We have 1 minute left on the program. Scott, I'll ask you to go first so we can let you go. What final advice you have for our listening audience concerning identity theft and prevention?
I would just go ahead and say to everybody is just be preventative. Be cognizant of who's around you and how you're using your information. Make sure your information is stored securely and that it is destroyed properly. It's really, identity thieves go after the weakest potential link out there. Somebody going through a store and leaving their purse unattended so they can reach into your purse and get your information. Just be careful about who's around you and your information. Make sure it's secure.
Thank you very much, Scott. We appreciate you appearing on our program.
Yeah, really.
You're welcome.
Okay. You have the final word, Mr. Jack?
As Scott said, be aware of your surroundings. I'll speak particularly to the ladies out there. When you go to your car, have your keys in your hand. Don't be standing there fumbling through your purse with all the groceries, waiting with your child in your arm and trying to figure out how to open the door. Be prepared to get in your car when you get it. And be aware if there's somebody you think is following you, turn around and go back in the store. And
Thank
make
you very
sure
much.
that's not happening.
Thank
And
you
be
very
involved,
much, Mr.
Be
Jack.
involved in the crime watch and the crime stoppers. Be involved.
I'd like to thank Mr. Jack Friedman and Jack Solomon and Mr. Scott Friedman for being on our program, and our dear director Sufyan Zalkut. I'd like to thank you all for listening. Until next week, may the peace and blessings of God be upon each and every one of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
لا إله إلا الله 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 لا إله إلا الله. He created the plants and trees. He created the birds and bees. He created the oceans and seas. Some of his many bounties. He made us on earth trustees to obey all his decrees.
Your voice, your opinion, your station. News Talk 1080 AM WTPS, the People's Station.
طلع البدر علينا من ثنيات الوداع وجب الشكر علينا ما دعا لله داع ما دعا لله داع. Oh, the white moon rose over us from the valley of Wada, and we owe it to show gratefulness where the call is to Allah, where the call is to Allah. أيها المبعوث فينا جئت بالأمر المطاع جئت شرفت المدينة مرحبا يا خير دار مرحبا يا خير دار. Oh, you who are raised amongst us, coming with a word to be obeyed, you have brought to the city nobleness. Welcome best scholars to God's way. Welcome best scholars to God.